Welcome back to another episode of Rise to Liberty. I do apologize for the late start. I actually left my house for a moment, and on my way back, it was a total uh, traffic shit show. So, with that being said, I would like to thank all of you for tuning in to another episode of Rise to Liberty. So, first and foremost, I would like to say that I am your host, Jacob Johnson. I'm a parapolitical and conspiracy researcher. For anyone who doesn't know, I have I guess, specialization in MK Ultra, mind control, Satanism, and ritual abuse. Today's show, we will be discussing the Australian ritual abuse case. Let's see. I had a couple of notes regarding this before we dive right in. Well, one thing I kind of want to catch up on. For those tuning in for the first time, or possibly just catching up, this is a ongoing series about Satanic Panic. However, this series is not about sensationalism or unfounded fears. It is at least intended to be a hard-hitting expose the veil of deception around the so-called Satanic Panic of the 1980s and 1990s. At least that's when it hit its peak. I believe it started around the 60s, and it never really ended. I firmly believe satanic crimes are not only real, that occult and satanic cults both exist and commit heinous acts in the name of Satan and other dark entities. But I also believe that these crimes are entirely widespread, and the Satanic Panic in and of itself is only a dismissal. It is a dismissal and coordinated cover-up to shield perpetrators. Why? I don't know. I have my theories as to why. However, episode by episode, we do plan on going through, ripping everything apart, and connecting the dots that might otherwise not have been connected before. All the way from MK Ultra mind control experiments intertwined with ritual abuse to real world networks that the elite and non-elite would rather keep buried. Tonight, we are pushing forward with fresh evidence that proves the panic was no hysteria. It was a warning we ignored pretty much at our peril. So just 9 days ago, on October 1st, 2025, a bombshell case exploded out of Sydney, Australia, exposing an alleged international satanic child sex abuse material ring. 4 men, ages 26, 39, 42, and 46, were arrested in a series of raids. It appears they were raided under Strike Force Constantine, which is kind of an odd name, especially for anybody who's enjoyed my content before, or any content that's similar. Strike Force Constantine is a rather interesting name. So these 4 individuals facing over 20 charges related to possessing, disturbing, and making available child abuse material, along with bestiality offenses. Police seized thousands of videos and files, and once again, thousands of videos and files depicting the abuse of children from the age of infants to 12 years old. All of this material was infused with symbols, rituals, and occult practices explicitly tied to Satanism. The 26-year-old, alleged to be group's leader, was dramatically taken out in his Waterloo apartment with a battering ram, while the others were nabbed in Malabar, I believe is how you pronounce the town's name. This isn't ancient history or a debunked myth. It is a modern, encrypted international network sharing ritualistic horrors. In my opinion, this is echoing the very cults we have been exposing and that we will be exposing in the future. And with victims unidentified and the probe ongoing, who knows exactly how deep this rabbit hole goes. To grasp the full scope of this cover-up, we will be traveling back to the roots in the United States. Tonight, I will dissect retro news footage from the 1980s and 1990s out of my home state of Utah, courtesy of KSL TV, which back, I believe, in 1985, aired a week-long series, Utah, the Teenage Underworld. These reports delved into the rising occult involvement among Utah's youth, complete with rituals, symbols, and subterranean culture that authorities later swept under the rug as a mere panic. From Provo to Salt Lake City, the footage will reveal that investigations were stifled, voices were silenced, and a narrative twisted to protect the powerful, mirroring today's Australian revelations and proving these aren't isolated incidents. So, join me today as we break it all down, demand the truth, and take a look at the rather unsettling truth here on another episode of Rise to Liberty. So, with that, I would like to thank all of you once again for tuning in. I am very excited for this look. Yeah, I totally agree. It does sound pretty rad. It is definitely weird though. It's like what the hell is going on here? So first, before we get into this, hello Desert Rain. Hello Scott. Thank you all for tuning in. The lead-in song, I would love to tell you, but it's a French song, and I do not know how to pronounce French at all. Or unless you're talking about the song that's in the actual opening itself, it comes from a band called Greenleaf, and it's called "Let the Devil In." So if you were talking about that song, that's what the song is. But the one before that, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't pronounce the name because it is French, and I am not French. So hello, everyone. Thank you once again for tuning in. So YouTube always makes changes. Yeah. I don't care for any update that YouTube ever makes. Never a big fan. Quick note before we move on to the story for today. Anyone that caught last Friday's show, the one discussing Mark Kilroy, just so everyone knows, I am currently battling right now with the Oprah Winfrey show regarding the future of that show. They put out, well, I guess the AI system put out a copyright strike, or not a copyright strike, but basically like a content warning. I have to appeal to them, showing that what I was doing with the copyrighted material falls under fair use. And basically they get to decide whether what I was doing actually falls under fair use. I think it's complete and utter horseshit if they're the ones that get to decide. Just because of the content of what I was covering, I don't think that they're going to agree with it. However, it is in their hands. But if you do want to catch that episode, you can go catch it on my X profile. Yeah, totally. But you're not monetized, so who cares? Right. But what's interesting about this is even YouTube, when you go through the appeal process, they don't care. It doesn't matter if you're making money off of it or not. What does matter is if it falls under the Fair Use or Fair Use Act. It's like Fair Use Act of 19 something or other. So basically, like, I can't use their copyright material unless it fits specifically under the fair use laws. And mine does. It completely does. However, whether it abides by that law or not, it's still up to them. Mark Kilroy show was great. Thank you so much. And what I was saying, it is on my X channel, so you can go still see the episode. It is also on Rumble. So if you do want to check that out, those are the only two places to be able to catch it right now. Although I do believe it was uploaded to BitChute, so you can check out my my BitChute channel. But yes, thank you all so much for showing up. Hello, hello. Anyways, let's get into the story for tonight, shall we? So, hasn't heard. This is the wildest thing that I've heard in a long time. So, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of US outlets covering this. So, our first source for this is going to be Al Jazeera. Not one of my favorite sources, particularly. However, they do some pretty good coverage. Nice beanie. Nice beanie, Tim Pool. Yeah. He does kind of look like Tim Pool, doesn't he? I actually didn't think about that. That's funny. He's a little chunkier than Tim Pool, but anyways, yeah, Al Jazeera, not one of my favorite outlets. However, if you are looking for news outside the US, I mean, they do kind of have a monopoly on covering stories, especially like this stuff that basically will never get covered here in the US. So, for all the blind viewers and audio listeners, the title: Australia charges 4 men over satanic child sex abuse material. Police say they seized thousands of videos of abuse involving symbols and rituals linked to Satanism and the occult. And yet, here is another story of this happening. And what's amazing to me is there will still be people every single time that will just deny that this happens. It's like they'll just totally excuse the behavior, or they'll excuse that it has any tie to Satanism. I've said this pretty much from the beginning of this series. Not every Satanist, obviously. Making an absolute statement like that is absurd, and it's not something I allow on my channel. It's just crazy. But to say that no Satanist ever harms children, that no Satanist has ever committed a crime, is equally absurd and will also not be tolerated on my channel. So that's kind of the point to all of this. But I've already seen people excusing a lot of this behavior. Not only excusing the behavior, but excusing the fact that this even happened. So, like I said in the beginning monologue, this crime, or the crime, has been taking place. However, it was put to a stop on December 1st, 2025. The article goes on to say police in Australia have charged 4 men following an investigation into what they called a international satanic child sex abuse material ring in the city of Sydney. The New South Wales police said on Monday they had charged the four with dozens of criminal offenses after executing 6 search warrants at several addresses in Sydney last week. The men, aged 26, 39, 42, and 46, were arrested on Thursday. The operation came after an investigative team, codenamed Strike Force Constantine, uncovered a pedophile network based in Sydney that distributed abuse material involving, quote, ritualistic or satanic themes. The New South Wales police said the network circulated the material through a website administered internationally, they said. Footage released officers in tactical gear breaking down the door of an apartment unit and taking one of the suspects into custody in handcuffs. The police said the 26-year-old man played a leading role in the group, the Tim Pool-looking motherfucker. The men face more than 20 charges related to possessing and distributing child abuse material, as well as bestiality, with some of them also facing charges for drug possession, not complying with reporting obligations, and contravening a prohibition order, according to police. All 4 men were refused bail. Good. Police said they had not yet verified where the abuse material was produced by any of the children who were abused. Quote, due to the nature of the material that they were sharing and the conversations that we became aware of, we were concerned about any children that these people might come in contact with as a result of that. Superintendent Jane Daughtry, commander of the sex crime squad, told a news conference. Daughtry said officers had seized thousands of videos depicting the abuse of children aged 12 and below, including babies. You fucking monsters. Police will allege in court that this international group were engaging in conversations and the sharing of material which depicted child abuse and the torture of children involving symbols and rituals linked to Satanism and the occult. Daughtry said authorities did not believe that the arrested men had recorded any of the materials themselves, and that officers were working with international partners to identify the victims. All 4 will appear in court in court next in late January. And you better believe that this channel will keep up on this story to find out exactly what is going on. Let's see here. So I'm going to bring up a couple of X posts. Let's see here. So this comes from an account called Guard Against Trafficking. Let's see. Let me fix the screen for you guys.
Four Sydney men are tonight.
Let's see. All right. See. Let me know if you guys can hear this. If not, I will make sure and fix it.
Behind bars, charged with possessing and distributing what police are calling satanic child abuse material. Now, it's alleged they are connected to an international paedophile ring, using encrypted chat sites to exchange videos and discuss their sick fantasies. And a warning, this story does contain some distressing details.
They are nightmares brought into reality, realised as criminal acts and carried out to share with depraved like minds.
Thousands of videos depicting the abuse of live children aged between babies and 12 years of age.
From computers and drives belonging to 4 Sydney men after police kicked in their doors. Detectives say they'd been tracking their activity on encrypted websites and chat rooms where they accessed and discussed the abuse of children.
Symbols and rituals around it in the discussions that they were having about abusing children.
Cybercrime investigators worldwide flagged a rise in the discussion and depiction of satanic-themed acts. Here, Strikeforce Constantine was established to track links to a global network using encrypted pages to share fantasies and recorded abuse. The reason police are so concerned by these groups and are sounding the alarm isn't just an increase in offences involving satanic symbolism, it's the threat of the observational becoming physical. These dark pursuits, like any serious drug, drive a need for a stronger fix or a bigger high, and that increases the threat of these abhorrent acts being carried out on Australian victims.
We were concerned about any children that these people may come in contact with.
So they moved on 26-year-old Minotta Mills, taking the accused ringleader off the streets. His charge...
Okay, these people look exactly the way that I would expect them to look. Just throwing that out there. Just throwing that out there. Also, I'm glad the volume and is good and everyone can hear it.
Include making both child abuse and bestiality material available. 3 men he's alleged to have shared it with were arrested at one apartment block in Malabar. Now detectives are racing to find the
Malabar. That's how you pronounce the neighborhood.
Victims of what was allegedly found in their possession.
Where they are and who they are so that they can be rescued from this.
So, like they said, so far there has been no identification of any of those that were abused. It doesn't appear as though that they were actually the ones producing it, which, you know, on one hand, I guess is good that they weren't producing it, but on the other hand, it is also disturbing that they have access to this much. But the one good thing about that is that this shows that there is an international network of these types of people out there trading this material. Now, I would much rather that not exist. So let me make that clear. I would, if I had the magic wand, I would wave it and make sure this did not exist. However, if it is going to exist, I want the truth to be known, which is the whole point to doing these shows. I do find it interesting, though, on a tech note, that these sorts of people, for some reason, can't be tracked, right? But, you know, during the COOF, during C-19, COVID-19, they were able to do such things as contact tracing. So they can literally trace who you came in contact with. They can trace all sorts of information. I mean, what is it that Whitney Webb calls it? The technocracy. The technocracy is able to track and trace so many things. And yet, for some reason, when it comes to any story such as this, it just all of a sudden, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And I find that incredibly interesting. Let's see. We're going to pull up another post real quick. I found this post. I haven't watched this yet, so I don't know what this is. But it looks like this guy does come from Australia. So let's take a listen to see what he has to say.
4 men arrested in Sydney as part of an international satanic pedophile network. Now, I've been covering this on the show for the past year or two for you guys. I've had interviews with the victims. I've explained exactly how this all works through the secret societies and the rich and powerful. We also saw news in Australia a few months ago around the daycare centres. So all these lower level rings are procuring children, trafficking children for the rich and powerful. And this ties all the way through to the Epstein network. These people are part of secret societies, Freemasons, boys clubs, the highest levels of the Catholic Church. Ultimately, these people will practice Satanism.
Oh, like the
New World
Jesuits.
Order agenda that they're pushing on us all now is satanic, anti-human, anti-life in nature. So for the general public, it'll be the first time they've heard about a lot of this because the media has been implicit and part of this cover-up for so much. But what an amazing time to be alive with some light being shed on all this dark.
All right.
4 men arrested in Sydney as...
I think, let's see. Yep. All right. I'm going to give that man a follow right now. Because I want updates on this. I want to make sure that there is going to be more on this story. Let's see here. I was going to pull up this post from Andy No. You know, I don't, regardless of what you think about him as a person or whatever, he does some great work. So, he said here, an Australian leftist journalist / queer activist is accused by Australian authorities of leading an international satanic child sex abuse ring. Yeah, I mean, here's some more pictures of those accused. I mean, I'll just let you guys make up your own mind, you know, what you guys think about this. The leader that they keep talking about, this was apparently his news network that he started, the underground media network. So basically exposing the stories mainstream media won't touch. Survivor-led investigative journalism holding blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Exposing corruption, racism, and silenced survivor stories mainstream media won't touch. I just find that interesting, you know, that this is who it is. So another post, New South Wales police and Australia released footage of their raids on properties belonging to alleged members of a satanic pedophile ring. Alleged ringleader London Germanota, I think. Germanota Mills is wearing a black and white outfit. He had his face, or hid his face from cameras. Now, before we play this, I do want to bring up this comment. There's a real trippy short set. So we were talking about this last night on the after show discussion for Already Dead. But his outfit is incredibly strange. You know, this hypnotic type shirt and short set, pretty wild, pretty intense. And, you know, I think it's incredibly interesting. You know, is he's using that somehow? It's saying something subconsciously with it. I don't know, but it's just really weird. You know, this incredibly hypnotic pattern he's using on his clothing. And it's just weird, right? Like, what a weird outfit choice. Anyways, yes, I did want to mention that. Let's bring up this video. Doesn't look like there's any. Yep, there's that outfit. That's just weird, right? That is a weird outfit. Like, oh man. Yeah, Courtney Turner is great on the Technocracy. I actually appeared on her show, if you guys want to go check that out. I can't remember the title of the show. I'm actually going to be releasing the audio version next week. But yeah, I was actually on Courtney Turner's show, so go check that out. We discussed MK Ultra. So let's see here. so they can pretend it doesn't exist, or they are protecting them. And I think it's both, honestly. I think it's both. Because there's always been leniency for these people, and there's, no reason for it. Absolutely no reason for it, unless, some of these people are friends and family of, high level politicians, or possibly customers, or possibly suppliers. Nicole Kidman's dad threw himself out of a window before he got arrested for this crap, but she's over here, and as Americans pay her, it's disgusting. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, it's no surprise that, these people problem solved. Yes, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, that's just wild. I was hoping that there was going to be more to this. Yes, we must redistribute the PDF files. Let's redistribute them all. Let's see. I know I had a couple of extra posts here. Let's see. Let's see. There's a transition post. Let's see. See, that's for another show. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about this case. I mean, it's really incredible to me that, okay, once again, let's take it from the stance that this stuff doesn't exist. Well, let me ask you this then. Why does it keep coming up? If this doesn't exist, then why does it keep coming up? Why does it keep happening? Why do these themes keep coming up? Why is it that it's like, I know it's not just me because I see it all over the place, but why is it that everything seems to be satanic nowadays? I mean, it's all you have to do is just look at the entertainment, right? That's all you really have to do. And it's it just couldn't be any more in your fucking face. It just couldn't. In fact, that reminds me. Let me see if I can find this real quick. Did not expect to have to bring this up, but okay, actually, I do want to show this real quick. I do find this incredibly interesting. Oh, doesn't work if it's like that. Here we go. This will show you guys. So if you just look this up, okay. So check this out. So just for those who don't know, Start Page is like a private version of Google. Okay. So the results that you get from Start Page are like if you were using Google, but it's a private platform. So like they don't keep any of your information or track any of your stuff or whatever. The reason I use this is largely to see what people searching Google will see. It is a pretty good, it's a pretty good resource if you want to be able to see the Google stuff without being tracked by Google. So, keep that in mind. It's not something I use for a lot of research. I use other platforms for that. There's like 30 other search engines I use, but the point of me bringing this up, So I just searched simply Australia satanic ritual abuse, turned off safe search. And obviously there's stories that pop up, but the very first thing that pops up is Satanic Panic Wikipedia page. And it is labeled as a widespread moral panic alleging abuse. Ugh. It's exhausting sometimes, honestly. However, if somebody's going to look up this story, this is what they're going to see first. And then, I mean, this is, some of the other things that pop up. Satan's Empire, the panic over ritual abuse in Australia. Allegations that an extremely severe form of sexual and physical child abuse perpetrated by Satanists or the devotees of company or comparably unorthodox religions. I don't know. Maybe you guys can explain this, but I don't understand why this is so difficult for people to believe. Now, I do understand decades and decades of propaganda and psyops and everything. Yeah, but still, even with that, why is it so hard for people to believe that this exists, that it's real, that it happens? Because nobody argues when you separate this into its basic components, Satanism, child abuse, bestiality, like any of these things, like nobody denies that they exist separately. But once you put any of them together, then all of a sudden you're crazy. I mean, like I said, I understand the psyop, the propaganda, and it's effective. It is. Like, that's the whole thing. But it doesn't make sense to me that nobody will argue that these things exist separately, but once you put them together, then all of a sudden you're a nutcase. Why is there such a large market for satanic ritualized cheese pizza photos and videos besides just sick perversion? Right. Exactly. That reminds me, this is what I was going to be looking up. Give me just a sec. I'm going to see if I can find a video of this real quick. This is kind of another news story amongst this type of stuff that's been going, I guess, viral. I think that term is used a bit too much, but let's see. Wasn't even going to talk about this because it kind of bothers me when people talk about this sort of stuff, but I think it's kind of pertinent. Let's see here. That's a pretty good video. Okay. Here we go. Nope. Hold on. Just give me a sec. Doing this on the fly. Okay. So I don't know if anyone saw, but this has been popping up a lot. This is from a recent concert from the Zac Brown Band. They had just performed in Las Vegas at the Sphere. And I don't know. Let me just play the video. You guys can tell me what you think. Okay, I don't want to keep playing that song because we'll get struck. But I mean, there it is on mute. Because the whole point is the visuals, right? It's I mean, granted, the song is something interesting, right? But look at the visuals. Now, here's the thing. People can point at this and say, yeah, it's just art. Okay, sure. I accept that to a degree. But the problem is that this is a continued theme with everybody. You know, look at any pop star, look at any pop star, hip hop, rap, anybody who's like at the top of the charts right now. And it's the same shit all over. It's just satanic imagery. Now, I don't disagree that I don't disagree that there is a place to discuss these types of topics in art. I think that dark topics are totally fine to discuss and to cover. Part of life in and of itself is dark, period. And to address those is totally fine. I think there is an appropriate way to address them, but that's my personal preference at a certain point, right? But there's also just the over inundation of satanic imagery over and over and over and over. It's the repeat exposure effect, right? Now, this is the same show. This is kind of a better view of what they were exposing, or what they were exposing. Sorry, just read that word. What they were showing to everybody at the Sphere, okay? Like I said, in and of itself, it's fine. It's fine, right? It's when it's combined with everything else in our culture currently. That's where I have a problem with it. And it's just weird. It's just weird. And this is one piece of straw in a gigantic pile, right? Like this in and of itself is not a problem. It's this plus everything else. And I'm kind of repeating myself, but I really want to drive this point home. That it's the pile of straw. Now, this is a piece of that pile, right? So you look at it, one piece of straw in your house is not that bad, but you break open a bale of straw and then you got straw everywhere. That's a fucking problem. This is a problem. Right. They aren't even hiding it anymore. Exactly. I mean, here's the thing. What else could this be? Is my thing. Like, what else could this be? I mean, yeah, that could be part of it. I mean, the point to a ritual is exposing people to it to an extent, but the other part of it is, I mean, look at this, right? By itself, okay, fine, but it's just like it's filled full of symbolism and meaning, and to think that this has no effect on anyone is ridiculous. It does, of course it does. But it's, I don't know. And granted, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Sphere, but this screen is huge. It's massive. I mean, look at that. Just this whole thing. You were just in an arena built to attack all of your senses. Like that was the whole draw to the arena, is that there's, sound, there's vibration, the seats will shift, and there's wind effects and like all sorts of stuff. Now, I can't remember the name of the song. What is it? Heavy is the Head, apparently, is the name of the song. Just go read the lyrics. I don't recommend listening to the song. Personally, I don't care for their music, but yeah, just go read the lyrics of the song. It's interesting. It's really interesting. You tie that all together, what do you get? I think you get a load of shit. And I don't know if anyone has ever spent any time on Threads, which is basically just like a liberal like a liberal Twitter. Basically, it's like, you know, one of the Twitter breakoffs. I created it so I could like cross post, and every once in a while I'll pop my head in to go see what people are saying over there. And I saw somebody pointing out the satanic nature of that, of the light show and the imagery being projected in the sphere for that show. And the comment section was just everyone dismissing it like it was just nothing. And it's like, I don't know. It's like you've got definitely two types of people at this point: people that recognize these things for what they are, and people that just dismiss it. And people, you know, those people that are just still asleep, but yet pull up any pop star at all, and you know, they will have some sort of satanic imagery or some sort of ritual or something. It's like, if you're a large artist nowadays, that's all it is. It's just satanic imagery at some point in their shows. Okay, now here's another post I wanted to show. This is from friend of the show, Derek Bros. Let's see, I'm going to fix this real quick. This is going to be kind of a transition. So we're going to be transitioning from Australia, which, you know, there's a huge history of ritual abuse in Australia. I recommend everyone to go pop their heads over to the Imagination podcast with Emma. She interviews survivors, and she's interviewed quite a few survivors that have dealt with the ritual abuse over in Australia before. You know, she's covered a lot of stuff over there. We'll definitely get to it. You know, I have the space for hundreds, if not thousands, of videos about this topic that we'll have to get to at some point. So we will be coming back to Australia. But in the meantime, what these people are accused of in Australia mirrors what we have been told for decades, which is another thing that really frustrates me, because a lot of these stories continue to stay the same. You know, there's minor details, there's minor shifts in things. However, the overall reaching story stays the same. To me, when you have consistency like that, that says to me that there's truth in it. Now, is everything, every detail that every person that ever talks about it, is it true? No, of course not. Once again, these absolute statements. For instance, Michelle remembers that book that really sparked the 80s satanic panic. That, to me, is a great example of what I'm talking about. Do I believe personally that every detail in that book is exactly how things happened, and that's exactly what happened to her? No, I do not believe that. What I do believe is that the overarching topic of what she is covering is consistent with other stories that has been shared from other people. That book, I've only read parts of it, but that book appears to me to be the writings of a woman who was abused in such ways. Like I said, I don't believe necessarily every little tiny detail, but there are true details in the book, period. but we'll get into a whole show, and maybe I'll even pull out sections of the book and dissect that book, because I think it's an important point in the timeline. Anyways, back to Derek. Derek Bros, an amazing reporter, investigative journalist, friend of the show. Utah Ritual Abuse Revisited. Let's see. So he's talking about in a recent show that he did, where he's one of the larger names who actually covered the Utah ritual abuse case, the Hammond case. I don't know why I was struggling with that name. Got a lot of thoughts going. My brain's working overtime. But we're gonna watch this clip regarding the Utah ritual abuse case, which is still ongoing at this point right now. So this is going to be interesting. Let's see what Derek has to say.
Now, another story that I've covered over the years that relates to claims of ritual abuse is in Utah, as I mentioned a couple of moments ago. This is a section on my website you can find. So if you want to see everything I've done on this story, on the Utah ritual abuse case, and also on the Mormon.
Highly recommend any coverage that he's done on this case. Highly recommend it. In fact, it's one of the many sources that I use to cover this case as well. And in fact, maybe next week we will start tearing into this case, because it's incredibly interesting. And like I said, it is ongoing.
Church and Utah in general, because I started this back in, as it says here, May 2022, when the Utah County Sheriff's Office announced an investigation into what they called ritualized child sexual abuse, which is very similar to the Australian case, except for the Australian case explicitly mentions Satanic. So when that story broke in May 2022, I saw it, I realized nobody was touching it, so I decided to dive deep in it, started contacting the police and talking about this situation. And once I did, I had so many people contact me with information, like sources, people who are Mormons in Utah, people who used to be Mormons, used to live in Utah, and had all kinds of information. So this section here on the website, it follows the initial investigation by the sheriff's office, as you can see here in this first video. And there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts of this, just that alone. But it also led to more investigations, including one called Justice Delayed, how I was sent information about an official within the Mormon church who was abusing his own daughters, and you know, the story all about that. This also led me to the story of Kate, who is a survivor of ritualistic abuse by David Hamblin, this man on the right side of the screen, who was accused by the sheriff's office of this ritualistic sex abuse of children. And it led me to interview Cindy Metcalf of the Relentless Hope, which is all about trying to expose ritual abuse in the Mormon church. And just, it also led to my recent story. It helped me find this Utah ritual abuse whistleblower, and then an interview with Goel, who's one of the best investigators out there investigating Utah ritual abuse and these sorts of things. So there's a whole section on there. And again, that involves accusations, especially if you go back to the original case against David Hamblin in the mid-2000s. And there's like literally documented hundreds of pages from some of the alleged victims, including his own daughters, who explicitly say that when they were being abused by different people, including their own father and people within the Mormon church, that they were praying to Lucifer, and that there was, involved murder, and like literally wearing the skin of dead people while they're abusing children, and a lot of stuff that sounds insane. And I'm just reporting what is in these police documents, which I guess you could say are completely fake, and maybe the girls made up. And that's, of course.
So the documents he's talking about, I have access to all of them. I have multiple copies in multiple locations to make sure that I never lose access to these documents. They are testimony from the daughters of David Hamblin that discuss in detail, in great detail, the crimes of their father. And not just the crimes of their father, but all of his associates. I've read through the document several times, and they are difficult to get through. Even just thinking about it is quite difficult. Just hearing what Derek is discussing here, it is some deep detail. Now, we will cover these at a certain point, although there's probably going to have to be a couple of episodes that stay behind a paywall, just because of the very nature of the topics and the details. So I'll definitely do episodes that are not behind the paywall regarding this topic, because I think it's important, and I think there's definitely a way to talk about it in which they don't have to be paywalled. I'm not going to be worried about them being censored. However, any episode that I am genuinely concerned of being censored will have to be behind some sort of a paywall, for those who are interested. But I do have all of these documents that he's discussing. They were sent to me quite a while ago, and like I said, I have many copies, so I'll never lose access to them. But yeah, I once again highly recommend all the work David or Derek, I don't know why I called him David, that Derek has done on this Utah ritual abuse case. In fact, if you guys are interested as well, you can hop on over to Beware the Mockingbird. I interviewed Jenny Hatch, who is a survivor of this very ritual abuse ring. There's a lot of cases of it here in Utah. And for anyone who is also interested, there is a simple breakdown of this case itself. So it is horrific. It is genuinely horrific. But this is a great breakdown of the basics of the case. So for anyone who wants to go check that out, we will be running through this. Like I said, maybe next episode we will start breaking into this case, as we also keep diving into Michael Aquino, and we start hitting Franklin and McMartin. I mean, I'll be honest, when I started this series, or even when I started my show, I didn't quite realize the amount of content that I was going to be able to create with this subject. I am grateful on one hand because there's a lot of truth out there that I can expose and cover. But the fact that there is so much content for this subject also horrifies me to a deep degree, because this is a very pervasive topic. It's a very sensitive topic. Anyways, make sure and go check that out. The interview I did with Jenny is absolutely amazing, and God bless her for opening up one of the many survivor stories that I have on my channel, and there are more coming. So let's see here. The Hamblin name in Mormonism is huge. It goes back to Jacob Hamblin, Brigham Young's right-hand man and founder of Kanab, Utah. Yeah, 100%. And for anyone else familiar with, this line of research or anything, Kanab, Utah is also one of many headquarters of the process. So, keep that in mind. Yeah, that comes up quite a bit as well.
Of course, what Hamblin and others accuse them of, I think that there's something there. I don't think a child, especially when, as young as they were when they first wrote down these accusations, could just dream up such horrible things out of just whole cloth. I definitely think there's something there. Unfortunately, as my report showed from just a couple of weeks ago or a couple of months ago, David Hamblin, he had the charges dismissed against him, and he was basically.
He had some charges dismissed, not all of them. As far as I'm aware, David Hamblin is still sitting in jail. There were 2 cases against him. One case got dismissed. So, yeah, as far as I understand, he is still in jail. There is still 1 case against him. Now, we do everything we possibly can here in the state and outside the state to make sure that this second case does not get dismissed. However, history repeats itself, or history rhymes. And, judging by the first case, we're hoping we do what we can to make sure that it does not get dismissed. However, just keep an eye out on my page. If there is any news in the Hamblin case, I will make sure to cover that, especially any breaking news. Yes, Kanab, Utah is the headquarters of the Best Friends Animal Society, the current iteration of the Process Church / Scientology, 100%. And the very fact that I uttered their name, there might even be some people that show up in the chat at some point, some haters, if you will. But if they do, we'll just kick them out of here. I'm not willing to put up with any of that.
Let off once again. That's the second time in a row he was accused of these same things in the mid-2000s, and then accused again in 2022, and then charges were dismissed earlier this year against him. So that case has kind of officially come to an end for the moment, and he is out walking free. Now, hopefully that's not what we're going to see with this.
He's not out walking free. So that's the one correction I will make. He's not out walking free, as far as I know. So I don't know if Derek didn't look as deeply into that, but he still should be. He still should be behind bars. There's a second case. So
case in Australia, because we do want some real justice and hope for some real justice. But unfortunately, the reality is of these kinds of cases, a lot of times it does involve powerful people. And the Utah case particularly, people were concerned from the very beginning that was what was going to happen, that exactly what happened was going to happen, that they were going to, because of David Hamblin's connections, and also because this whole thread of former Utah County Attorney David Levitt and his connections, that these cases were going to be just dismissed, and they were just not going to be listened. And I think that's unfortunate, but it is what happened, and hopefully that doesn't happen in the Australia case, because, like I said a few minutes ago, clearly these guys were not working alone. Maybe these format each other, but if they weren't doing the abuse, then who was doing the abuse? And we need to know that.
Yes, that's a very, very great case, That's a very great question to this case. Who were these men? Who were they working with? Who was actually producing this? And, I have so many questions. Exactly how far reaching is this stuff? I mean, I have my opinions. I'm pretty sure it's just worldwide. It's literally all over the place, in my opinion. But, I want some court evidence. I want to see exactly how far this goes. And I honestly think it's coming. I really do. I think that it's only a matter of time before one of these cases actually ends up getting to discovery. And honestly, that's what we need. We need a conviction. We need convictions, obviously, multiple convictions, in a perfect world. But based upon exactly how this world works and how corrupt the court system is and everything, if we could at the very least, get discovery in some of these cases, it would release a mountain of evidence. And at that point, I mean, is the problem solved? Hell no. No. And even with, if a wave of convictions came, I still don't think the problem's going to be solved, because the problem is much more ingrained into society than passing some laws or securing some convictions. The problem is a lot more deeply ingrained into exactly whatever we're dealing with. But it's a start. So with that mention of Utah, we are going to be moving to this video that I pulled off of the internet. This is a recent upload, actually. I was really surprised that KSL News did this. But this is a video compilation of archived stories from KSL TV and KSL News Radio that has been uploaded for editorial preservation and commentary. This is going to be fair use commentary, which I will make very apparent here, because of the very topic that we are covering. So we're going to go through as much of this as we possibly can. Unfortunately, fortunately, I do have an appearance on another show tonight, so I do have a hard out, but we are going to get through as much of this as possible, and find it kind of interesting, kind of rounding this out, kind of showing that, you know, the first part talking about the Australia case is to show that this is still happening. This didn't end. This didn't go away. And by going back and covering some of this older news footage is kind of to show how they were able to spread this lie that it doesn't happen, that this is not happening, that it's a hysteria, that it's just a Christian moral panic. And I think that's going to be a good place to end it for the evening. So let me shut up and let's just dive into this.
That practice of Satanism or devil worship by a growing number of teenagers is a subject that is beginning to surface as a serious social issue here in Utah. It is a subject that until now has been discussed only in whispers among social workers and psychologists. And it's a subject that our Probe 5 investigative team has been examining from several angles. Tonight, Probe 5 reporters Con Saris and Dave Schmertz begin a week-long series of reports entitled Satanism in Utah, a Teenage Underworld.
During the last 5 months, Probe 5 has...
I just got to say, before we get too deep into this, I got to love that they uploaded this, because so many of these newscasts are just, the quality is just horrible. And so the fact that they uploaded this for archival purposes, oh man, I just, as a content creator, holy shit, do I love this. Whoever made this decision, honestly, thank you, because this makes my job a hell of a lot easier.
Interviewed several teenagers who claim to be devil worshippers, and we've talked with psychologists, police, and experts in the occult. We have found that teenagers' involvement in Satanism ranges from the benign and innocent to the dangerous and deadly.
It gives you an adrenaline rush, and it's like, okay, I'll see if I can commit this, see if and I won't get caught because Satan won't let me, because I'm one of his children. It's a big power trip, and you think you can get away with anything. At least I did, and most of my
This
friends
girl,
did.
we'll call her Tina, is talking about committing crimes. When Probe 5 interviewed Tina, who is 16, she was being held in a juvenile detention center. During the past couple of years, she's been picked up by police for various crimes, including attempted homicide. She says her small gang of devil worshippers justified that crime as a way to offer a human sacrifice to Satan. There are not a lot of kids in Utah like Tina, but there is a
But this crime doesn't happen, right? And yeah, sure. I guess you can dismiss this as, oh, it was a bunch of teenagers. So the fuck what? So what? Who cares if it's, a 16-year-old or a 30-year-old, 50, 60, 70-year-old? What does that age matter? If somebody was attempting to murder somebody in the name of Satan, how is that not a satanic crime? I mean, here's what's funny too, is like a lot of people will point to history, for instance, and they'll say, well, the Catholic Church did this. This is a Christian crime, although that's not necessarily in the lexicon. But I have heard people argue this. Oh, the church has done this. Nobody has an issue pointing the finger at the Catholic Church regarding the child abuse that happened in the Catholic Church. But you point the finger at a Satanist, and all of a sudden it's just, you've gone too far. They wouldn't do that. They say on their website that they don't harm children. Okay, well, good for them and their website. But not everyone follows them. Because here's the interesting thing about the structure of Satanism. Not everyone believes the exact same thing. So that's fine that some Satanists do genuinely believe in not harming children. That's great. But not all Satanists believe that. That's just the reality. So I still just don't understand this, saying that satanic crime doesn't exist. You've got to be high. You've got to be high to think that that is the truth.
a surprisingly large number of teenagers who dabble in the occult. For most, it's a passing fancy, prompted by the same curiosity that has led most of us at one time or another to play with a Ouija board or tarot cards. Others, though, are more serious. They learn the rituals, and they practice it as a religion. For example, 2 months ago, Utah County Police stumbled onto this abandoned barn, which they think was the site of a witch's coven. Officers found the remains of a small bird they believed was killed as a blood sacrifice. Some local child psychiatrists believe devil worship is simply a fad for most of these teenagers, but for some kids, they say, it's more than they can handle.
Those that I'm most concerned about are those who have susceptibility because of emotional problems, particularly conflicts, dysfunctional family situations, and maybe wind up being profoundly depressed, profoundly angry or impulsive, and wind up doing something that is really dangerous. And that degree, it does represent a threat.
This is a good point. Satan compartmentalizes. Let's see. Sorry.
It can encourage a suicidal pact, for instance, and we have seen those.
Not sure if that's being hid the way that I can see it. Anyways, the comment is that Satan compartmentalizes his people just like every other evil leader. And here's the thing, it's not even just evil leaders. Smart leaders will also compartmentalize to some extent. So, I mean, the church does this too, whatever church you belong to. Not just you, the person making the comment, but you, the viewer and or listener. Or even if you don't belong to a church, I mean, there's certain organizations that compartmentalizes things. I mean, it's compartmentalization, in and of itself obviously is not the issue, but the point of the comment being that Satan does compartmentalize his people just like any other organization might. So yeah, I mean, this is, it's just to think one type of Satanist is just like the other type of Satanist is insane. It's just like comparing types of Christians. Not every type of Christian is the exact same. I mean, there's different types of Muslim, there's different types of Judaism. And by the way, speaking of that real quick, I'm not going to get into it on this show. But do you all happen to remember the whole tunnel thing in New York? Do you guys remember that? Well, I found a podcast today, a Jewish community leader explaining the whole tunnel situation, explaining the mattress, explaining the kid's high chair that they found, explaining the tunnels themselves and what they are used for. And this man is incredibly honest. I thought we were going to have time for it today, but we don't. But next episode, it will be there. So just keep an eye out for that next Wednesday for sure, possibly this Friday's show. But we'll get to that before we get out of here. Let's get back to this.
More than we have seen in years past.
It's dangerous because some kids will outgrow it, some kids won't, and some kids won't have the chance to because they'll die from it.
This week, we will examine the dimensions of this phenomenon. We'll look at why teenagers are attracted to the occult and where that attraction can lead. And we will meet more kids like Tina, all residents of this teenage underworld. Dave Schmertz, Probe 5.
The practice of devil worship has existed in various cultures for centuries, but recently it has become a very real part of what psychologists are calling the adolescent or teenage subculture. Much of our Probe 5 series this week on Satanism deals with that culture, but our pictures of teenagers are not meant to imply that these kids we're showing are involved in satanic or occult practices. As we continue the series, Probe 5 reporter Con Saris explains tonight that while devil worship may be something of a fad, it can be extremely dangerous.
Boomer moment. Mic muted. Now, I do think that this is an important distinction to make. So, this can be a fad. Does that mean it's not dangerous? No. Does it mean that it can be harmless? It can. To say that I, as a former Satanist, walked out of Satanism with absolutely zero harm? No. To say that I walked out better than most? Probably. You know, I mean, there's a lot of time I wasted, I feel like, doing something entirely retarded is what I'll call it. But can it be harmless? It can, just like anything else. Because not every person is the exact same, right? So, for instance, somebody could do something overtly bad, like, let's say, smoking cigarettes. Maybe not today, but back before they added too many chemicals to it, you could have, at one point, smoked your entire life and never had any negative side effects. Another person smokes maybe a year and ends up developing cancer. So I think it's going to be kind of the same. There's going to be some people that walk into it, that walk out of it and have no problems. However, there's going to be people that walk into it that get destroyed entirely. And some of those people that are never going to come out of it, whether it be because they don't want to come out of it, or because they lost their life or took their own life or something along those lines. But I do think it's an important distinction to make. It's not the same for everybody. It's just not. So, how long were you in Satanism, Jacob? So it was about 10 years. It was a period about 10 years. So, got into it in my early 20s, about 20, 21-ish. Took it real serious for about 8 of those 10. And then, within recent years have left, changed my mind on a lot of different things. I tend to keep my own personal opinions, my personal opinion. I am now a pretty devoted follower of Jesus. That's my personal opinion now. I try not to make this show about that. I think it kind of, although I will add my personal opinions regarding this topic where I feel it necessary and appropriate to do so. So I'm not going to leave my personal opinions out entirely. So don't expect that. But it's also not going to be the focal point. I think, well, it doesn't matter what I think, at least at this point. But that is the reality of things. So yeah, I was once a Satanist, am no longer. And that's also another reason I am doing this series. I believe I have a unique perspective on this entire matter. Once being a Satanist kind of gives you a little bit more authority on the matter, So not that I'm necessarily proud of that, but I am trying to give back in any way I possibly can, because I do feel as though me being a Satanist did some damage. Well, I feel as this is a way for me to be able to combat that and do what I can. So anyways, back to this.
Satan worship, like any religion, has its share of symbols, rituals, and traditions. There is even a satanic Bible. But most teenagers who call themselves devil worshippers are usually not serious students of the occult.
These kids are what we call making it up.
Oh, I've got to address this real quick. Let's see. I don't know. That was just bothering me the way that, like I said, I don't know if you guys were seeing that, like the bar covering the comments or whatever, but the guy who made up that Getty story was a Q grifter who has been called out as a fraud by many people. Yes. Now the Getty story, we'll get into that point, and we're going to get into Q, because here's the thing. I do not believe in Q. Q is trash. It doesn't exist. It's a complete psyop. It's fake. And if you believe in it, you're not going to like what I have to say about it, because QAnon, whatever you want to call it. No. That is subversion. That is adding to the cover up of all of these things. Plain and simple. This is not a Q friendly channel or show. It's just not. Q is fake. It is put out there to lead you down a path of misinformation and disinformation. So we will cover that. I've been thinking about that for a while, exactly how to cover this, because I know I'm going to kick a hornet's nest when I do it. I personally don't care. We're going to kick a hornet's nest. And yeah, I can't remember that guy's name, but I don't want to give him any airtime anyways. Yeah, all you have to do is just watch his content and you can totally tell he's a Q grifter. So he is a little bullshit. Anyways, had to address that. Great comment, by the way.
As you go along, they're pulling from the sources in the adolescent subculture, music, the rock music, the heavy metal music, symbols. They're pulling from peers. They're pulling from their movies. They're pulling from MTV. They're pulling from their fantasy role-playing games, and they're putting this together and creating something that is particular almost to every group of kids. And a body.
McCarthy is a Boulder, Colorado expert on cult and religious movements, and he's a consultant for several police departments on occult practices. He says there are many sources of satanic symbolism in the teenage pop culture. Some heavy metal rock and roll bands use satanic...
See, it's funny because it hasn't changed, right? Like, there's still tons of Satanism in teenage culture. That part hasn't changed. And I also don't 100% agree that it is the culture that is shaping the attitude towards this entirely, right? Let me preface this. The culture is shaping the public's attitude towards it. But it's also like a give and take thing, right? Culture is not a one direction thing. Okay? it is in both directions. So at this point, especially because of things like the repealing of the Smith-Mundt Act, where it's now legal to propagandize the American people from a institutional standpoint. So now the CIA, FBI, all of these organizations, even private businesses, can legally propagandize the American people. I think it is more so that culture and institutions and everything are influencing us more so than they ever have before. However, at the height of the Satanic Panic, it was still illegal for them to do this. It doesn't mean they didn't do it, but it happened far less, although it was happening. Now, I don't necessarily believe that, like, say you go to one rock concert, you're going to turn into a Satanist and you're going to start abusing animals. And like, that's a ridiculous statement to make. I also don't believe that you can, buy a record, even listen to any music particularly, and have it change who you are fundamentally, especially if you're walking into this with eyes wide open instead of the whole eyes wide shut thing. Yeah, screw that. Eyes wide open. If you fully are aware of things that can happen, you can protect yourself from them. You can also still take it just as entertainment, but that also doesn't mean that there's no entertainment that won't harm you. Once again, I think this is cyclical. It's a little give and take relationship. This is something that I am going to keep pushing, because here's the problem I have with the people who were defendants of that satanic crime exist. It was always like, oh, it's the music. Oh, it's the video games. Oh, it's the movies. Yes, but no, it is far more complicated than just it is or it isn't, right? It is far more complicated than that. It's not just one or the other. It's actually both. Yes, there is some out there damaging, and there's also some out there that's not damaging.
Signs like the inverted pentagram shown here to promote album sales by catering to curiosity in the occult. Other common symbols include an upside-down crucifix and the numbers 666. In biblical reference, the sign of the beast or the devil. These signs often show up as graffiti at places where the kids get together to stage their satanic rituals, like here in Memory Grove, a 10-minute walk from downtown Salt Lake City. While most teenagers are mildly amused by signs and references to Satan in the popular culture, others can be deeply intrigued. Some kids turn to devil worship as a way of seeking an identity, belonging to a group.
When a group meets together for a special kind of rite or a special kind of involvement in something that's very symbolic, such as this, it's like a club. Now he has something that he can't tell his parents. It's kind of a secret with the other kids, and it's something it's dangerous. It's a bit frightening.
As a form of adolescent rebellion, Satanism is extremely effective. Even in a society that is tolerant of all kinds of behavior, satanic worship is bizarre. To call it anti-establishment would be an understatement. The experts Probe 5 has talked to say most kids who dabble in the occult will eventually lose interest in it. Simply, they will outgrow it. But for those who have turned to the occult as a way of dealing with other problems, an unstable family life, problems at school, depression, drug dependence.
I am a slow chatter. No problem with that at all. None. I was talking about your church comment. Exactly which church comment? Made a couple. Still honestly believe pop music is way more satanic than heavy metal, especially nowadays. 100% agree. Although I will throw black metal into that pile of pop music and stuff. I mean, there's some heavy metal music that's just blatantly satanic with the intent of being satanic. I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, no, the overall sentiment of this comment, totally agree. Well, I definitely appreciate your opinions, and I appreciate your chats, and I appreciate everyone else's chat. So, the interaction with the show, it not only helps, it helps show the platform that people are interested, people want to talk, and it also gets it out to more people. So, and outside of that, I do genuinely care what you people think, and what your guys' opinions are on all of this. I mean, I'm partially doing this for you guys, so I definitely appreciate all of the comments. Just move from rock and roll to hip hop. Yeah, no, and you can kind of see that transformation too, in the early 90s, when gangster rap started becoming a big thing, and towards the end of the crack cocaine epidemic, and then it moved to gangster rap with Tupac and Biggie in the 90s.
There may not be an easy way out.
Where does this go? What is the last stop on this road for those who follow it for its duration?
Death.
By what means?
Suicide mostly. That's been a big problem. The kids get in very quickly over their head in this.
Consaris, Probe 5.
For the past several months, our Probe 5 investigative team has been looking into the practice of satanic worship among teenagers in Utah. Tonight, Consaris continues a series of reports with a look at the element of violence in Satanism. We wish to remind you that the pictures of teenagers used in our reports are for purposes of illustration only and are not meant to imply that these people are involved in satanic or occult practices.
These notes were scribbled by a teenaged girl who calls herself a devil worshiper.
Where is JJ? So JJ, for my understanding, is on a little hiatus for a little bit. He's dealing with some personal issues. Nothing's wrong. Don't worry about that. He's all good. He's just taking a little bit of hiatus to take care of himself. So, but he will be back beginning January, I believe, is what he said. I've already talked to him about getting him on this series, because I mean, we've got to bring JJ on to talk about satanic panic being real, right? Like, I mean, that's just that's got to happen. So, but yeah, he will be back here in just a couple of weeks, right after the first of the year. So stay tuned for all the upcoming JJ content.
They refer to Satan as Daddy, and they are filled with references to death, murder, and revenge. Satanism, as it's practiced by the teenagers Probe 5 has talked with, is fundamentally violent. The kids talk about killing small animals for blood sacrifices, and one girl told us she was married into a satanic church during a ritual that took place in Memory Grove that involved drinking human blood. Much of the violence is directed by the kids at themselves in the form of self-mutilation or suicide. The girl who wrote these notes, for instance, has carved satanic symbols into her skin, and she has tried to kill herself several times.
Seems like a lot of them feel really lost and angry, and that could be overwhelming.
Yeah, so I just talked to JJ not that long ago, and yeah, he's doing great. I also told him to keep me updated on what's going on. So I guess stay tuned for all your JJ news over here on Rise to Liberty.
But a lot of them talk about suicide, and there's nothing to live for, and they're always so angry.
There is not necessarily a direct relationship between suicide rates and satanic worship, but psychologists say the kids most susceptible to suicide are also most likely to become part of a satanic cult.
Nope, not weed detoxing. That's not what's going on. I believe he has a bit of a back issue. I think he's talked about it on his channel before. But no, not weed detoxing. As far as I know, he didn't mention anything about that. But yeah, just making sure he just takes care of himself, because if he doesn't take care of himself, he can't come back with awesome content, and he can't bring all of you fine people some of the also best coverage of Satanic Panic being real. So
these kids, acutely depressed and troubled, have been known to refer to suicide as a method of self-sacrifice, a way of pleasing Satan and showing their peers they are true believers.
They don't know how to get in touch with the people that know how to do the real ceremonies, so they'll just kill themselves. No one will ever know. No one except for the people that knew the kid, friends, will ever know that it was the suicide was caused because of devil worship. But there's a lot of them that people just think this kid was depressed, so he killed himself.
When Probe 5 interviewed this girl, we will call her Tina, she was in the custody of juvenile court, where she's been held several times. Last year, Tina was picked up on charges of attempted murder. She told us that crime was inspired, at least in part, by the decision among some of her friends to kill a man as a way of committing a human sacrifice to Satan. That case and other crimes related to Satanism throughout the country have sent waves of shock through law enforcement communities. The Salt Lake County Sheriff's Office has responded by starting a training program in the ways of Satanism and the occult.
Specifically, we're telling our officers, our deputies, that there are a lot of problems under committees in regards to Satanism, in regards to getting into the sacrifice of animals, and even suicide as a sacrifice to Satan, and also murder, homicide.
That kind of training became available here only last month, and several police officials have told Probe 5 they are seriously concerned that many cases of suicide, and maybe even some murders, may have been tied to Satanism, but that those ties may have been overlooked.
It makes you think about where some of the runaways are ending up that never show up. Who checks on them? It would be easy for runaways to get involved in groups like this and then just disappear and no one really know where they went.
Consaris, Probe 5.
All this week, our Probe 5 investigative unit has been exploring the world of Satanism among Utah teenagers. That's a subject that evokes reactions ranging from surprise and disbelief to anger. Tonight, Probe 5 reporter Dave Schmertz introduces us to one man who is waging a personal battle against teenage devil worship. A reminder now, the pictures you will see of local teenagers are not meant to suggest that any of them are involved in satanic worship.
All right. Unfortunately, I've got to cut this conversation short. I will be appearing over on the No Way Jose show or channel. So I've got to be able to cut this short and get over there. However, the next show will be this Friday, 5:30 p.m. Mountain, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. So be on the lookout for that. I'm not 100% sure what Friday's show is going to be. And then from there, we will be doing Laurel Canyon again on Monday, same time, 5:30 p.m. Mountain, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. And then from there, next Wednesday, every single Wednesday, Satanic Panic is real. So on that note, I would like to thank all of you once again for tuning in. It truly means the absolute world to me that you guys show up for this, and it makes me beyond ecstatic that you guys care about this, show up, and want to hear about these things. So real quick before we get out of here, and we will finish that, we will be finishing that segment next episode. So don't worry about that. You will see the end of it. But on that note, let's see, before we get out of here real quick, let's see. Oh, come on. Why is that not coming up? Well, I would like all of you to head on over to the master link, which for some reason is not popping up. That is weird. I've never had that issue before. Maybe if I do that. Huh. That is weird. That is super, super weird. Let's try this again. Nope. Well, if you head on over to the episode description, you can go to allmylinks.com. Allmylinks.com/rise to liberty. It is in the episode description. Just go to that. You can check me out on X. I also have a Ko-Fi. I have a Buy Me a Coffee. I have all sorts of ways to be able to help out the show, but one of the best ways you can help out the show is hit the like, share, subscribe, follow, all of these things. This is one of the best ways to help out the show and to help out getting the word of this show out further. It lets the platforms know that you guys want to watch more, that you want to hear about it. And apparently, I also needed to be telling everyone when you do subscribe, make sure and hit the notification bell. There's not always notifications coming in. So if you do that, you have a much better chance. So go ahead and do that. And let's see, let me hit a couple of comments on the way out. And let's see. Yes, thank you all once again. This is always a great time. Thank you. Love doing this for you guys. And all of you also dealing with issues out there. I hope all of you take care of yourselves. I hope everyone has a wonderful evening. I will see you guys this Friday. Once again, 5:30 p.m. Mountain, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. This Friday, the next show. Not sure what we're covering yet, but we're covering it. And until next time, stay free, my friends.